This is one of them scenarios where I'm squeezing in a new visited station for me before I reverse back up the line to start my walk today. The returning train is in about half an hour, which gives me enough time to go and have a look at something nearby, which may have contributed to why at one point this was the least used station in Kent. What I maybe should have done before coming here was check whether the return train was actually on time. Otherwise I should have just started the walk at the station I've already passed through. But now that I'm here, I don't even see any display boards, so I'm just gonna have to hope that it is running. Okay, there's one up the stairs at the entrance. I'm good. Half an hour till my train. So you can see that there really isn't a whole lot around Snowdown station. A couple of roads where there's a couple of houses over there, but what I'm interested in is a selection of disused buildings that is not shown on the map, and it seems like I'm already stood in front of one of them. So this is the site of Snowdown Colliery, an old coal mine that has largely been disused since 1987. Coal was found in Kent under a failed Channel Tunnel attempt in the 19th century. A selection of coal mines opened locally upon that discovery, but they are now mostly closed. I'd assume then that this would have been a big driving force for passengers coming to Snowdown station. Perhaps they worked here, but at the same time I reckon a lot of workers probably lived local anyways in Snowdown itself. So I've made it back up the line to Aylesham station where I'm starting my walk today. This one opened later than Snowdown. That one was in 1914, this one was in 1928. There are 3 stations along here in quick succession. The third one is where I'm going to be walking to today. This one essentially opened just because there was an increase in traffic for people working at the coal fields. But unlike Snowdown, this one has seen a lot more development. It's even continuing now, as you can see behind me. It's a lot more built up than Snowdown. Although it is a little bit more urban around here, that's not going to stop me from taking a very rural walk today across the countryside, across these fields, because who wouldn't want to be exposed in the sun on a hot summer's day out here? I wish the snow was coming down. I'll stop. So there is something to visit in Aylesham. Admittedly, I've already done a couple of miles to come and see it, but it is Goodnestone Park and Gardens, which was built in 1704, even visited by Jane Austen, and it is described as one of the most beautiful gardens in Kent. Even on the walk up here, there's a beautiful wild meadow there. This bit's been kept very nice, and then you have the actual kind of house and gardens over here. And it is, as I expected, a very nice old property. I love that. There's a big full car park here. There's a cafe and everyone is in there for lunch. I've come across a little sign. There's nothing on it, but I've noticed that it says the Miners Way Trail, which seems appropriate, but I just don't get a map of what the Miners Way Trail actually is. So Goodnestone itself, by the way, is a quaint little village that is adjacent to Goodnestone Park and Gardens. And just to give you a little bit of an indication of the walk moving forward, I'm up here in Goodnestone. I'm heading for Chillenden, and essentially I'm heading back in the direction of Snowdown Station again. So on the walk to Chillenden, I've come across a magnificent windmill. I've actually altered the walk slightly to come and see this, as I didn't initially spot it during the planning stages. I'm glad I've come to visit it now. I've never stood on a windmill before. I've just realised there was a bench in here, so I thought that's a perfect little spot to take a quick break. Nice views across the fields. So I've now made it down into the village of Chillenden. This did used to be a parish, but in 1935 it had merged with nearby Goodnestone. That did have a church down in the village. I don't know how that one cow has snuck its way onto the footpath side of the field. Oh, it is coming towards me. Why are you not with your friends? What I was going to say is that because I'm heading back towards the railway, I'm essentially on the south side of all the wildflower meadows that the manor house at Goodnestone Park was overlooking. And I thought for a second that might be the house, but no, I'm too close to it at this stage. That's another selection of buildings. I think it's a school. These cows really are coming towards me. How am I going to avoid them? I'll just give them a wide berth. Reckon that'll be alright. Before I make it back to the railway though, I've got another little village to head through first under the name of Nonnington. Quite strange to see a completely brand new build house there, right next to a very old barn. Okay, I found it. I thought I might have a bridge over, but the path goes under the railway instead. And the next crossing in that direction will be where Snowdown station is. So the original plan for today's walk was to head in that direction and pass by Snowdown station and the former colliery. But I realised it's a perfect opportunity because I have no other walks planned in that area because I'm covering it today. I could go to Snowdown station to tick it off and then reverse as part of my quest to try and visit every station in the country. So this allows me to see a little bit of a different area to Snowdown, slightly further north across these fields. And actually it's worked out well that I've done that, because for some reason it is cheaper to buy your ticket to Snowdown than it is to Adisham. It's about £1.30 cheaper with a railcard discount. So I thought I would see if that trend continues. So I looked at the next station on the line, Shepherd's Well, and again it's slightly cheaper. And in the last two, Guernsey I think and Dover Priory, again it's cheaper. So it's about £2 cheaper to buy a ticket to the end of the line at Dover than it is to Adisham. So although I was going to buy my ticket to Snowdown and add to its very low passenger numbers, I've not even ended up doing that. I've bought one to Guernsey. I've just ended my journey early, because you can do that. This is pertinent as well because I've only ever travelled on this railway line once, back in 2019, to first head to Dover. So I've not actually used any of the intermediate stations between Dover and Faversham. I've since come up with a plan to visit every station on the line, as well as doing a walk, which is why I'm doing today's one. I just wanted to make a little dent into this railway line and get some stations under my belt. That's why as well I don't do visiting every station videos often in the southeast, because ideally, hopefully, I've got many years of doing these adventures ahead of me, so I like to do as much exploration as I can, visit these lesser known stations, lesser known places, and just to see what's around by doing these longer walks. I might as well take my time with trying to visit every station, right? I save them videos for more so the bigger trips out of London, like my recent one to Sheffield and Derby and all that, because that would be pretty expensive if I was to go up there and only tick off 2 or 3 stations every trip. So I kind of bulk a lot more together around them ones. But I realise that because of that, this is a very niche walk, and I do these often. Walks in very unfamiliar locations, places that people wouldn't really visit. I mean, you're not really getting any tourists coming to Snowdown, are you? But I realised because of that, that this video might not perform that well. Oh, hang on, there's a fast train. I've come to terms with that though. Maybe if I was to do a much more well-known walk, or visit a town that a lot of people know about, then the video might do better. But I'm not fussed about that. I was always going to do this walk anyways. I do this as a hobby. I like making the videos, editing and uploading them. And so if you are watching this, hi. Thanks for watching. So mentioning how I like to explore as much as possible around these lesser known places, this is a perfect example of that, as my path heads straight along here, but then I've got a very sharp diagonal path cutting right back over in this direction. I might actually cut across anyways, because I've seen people on Strava do that. I can see a heat map of other walkers. But if I was to continue in that direction, I would eventually get to the North Downs Way. Now that is a very well-known footpath, and I do plan on walking that section at some point, which will allow me to tick off another couple of stations on this line. So by coming up to this point, it really is like I'm trying to explore as much as possible, like I'm colouring in this whole area on a map, this whole landscape, by almost touching another walk. So I've essentially looped around back into Aylesham at the heart of the village green, where there's a little memorial to the colliery and times gone by here. There's a great little information board here. This is something I thought about as I was leaving Snowdown, the miners' strike that absolutely would have been a contributor to the downfall of the industry, a catalyst for the closure of the colliery. Great photo of it there. It'd be great if the chimney still existed. Capped August 1988. That's only a year after the colliery closed. Is this actually an entrance down into the mine, or just a ventilation shaft for it at least? Anyways, I did mention earlier that there's a line of 3 stations in quick succession around here, so now that I'm back in Aylesham, it shouldn't take too long for me to walk up to the next station. Of course, I'm not taking the most direct path to the station. I've got another selection of fields, and that wood over there looks too enticing of an opportunity to miss out, and I'm essentially gonna walk straight through it all the way over to the station in that direction. So I've found the railway, and once again it's a path underneath it, so I can't stand on top and look at the platforms. I'm actually just north of the station. It's been a very twisty walk today, but just through there should be a path alongside the railway to reach the station. Aha, I see a station sign way up there. It's quite funny to see when you're in the middle of nowhere. And that station is Adisham, not to be confused with Amersham, not to be confused with Aylesham, not to be confused with Aylesbury. Unlike Aylesham and Snowdown, which opened in the 20th century, this was an original station on the line to Dover, opening in 1861. Perhaps that's why it has a little bit more character, with a beautiful old station building here. I'm a big fan of that canopy too. So generally, it seems like there's an hourly service on this line. In the peak though, it increases to half-hourly, but some of them half-hourly trains skip some of the quieter stations like here and Snowdown. Funnily enough though, the train after my one is in half an hour. I think I've caught the only one that isn't a direct to London. I am going to have to change at Faversham, but it is running about 8 minutes late currently, and there's a 5-minute connection, so I might actually end up catching that direct train to London that's half an hour behind if they don't hold the connection. It's quite far from the little village of Adisham, and there is a gate here that leads out onto a public footpath that leads you towards it. That's quite unusual for a station. Oh, it completely like twists around here. I'll get down the embankment of the railway, I guess. Wow, it goes on for ages. Oh, I just noticed these to my left. Little concrete pyramids. I'm aware that you can see these at another station on this line. So that'll be for another day, I guess. Either way, I love this station. and it's where I'm ending a very rural Kent walk. A very random one as well. If this is your first time here, I do walks like this regularly. Sometimes I do more obvious ones or visit more populated areas, but I've been doing this long enough now that there's a decent catalogue on the channel, so you can go and watch other walks I've done. Make sure you subscribe while you're at it. Might as well, right? Catch future videos. They held the train. London, Victoria. Thanks, Southeastern. I kind of wanted you to let it go though, so I can get delay repair.